Hello, I'm Lauren Huberman.
And I'm Christina McLean. Welcome to All Access. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you all had a great holiday and a great start to 2025. We are coming to you from City Hall, downtown Chicago, and looking forward to another season of All Access.
That is right, Christina, and Happy New Year to everybody. So, for our episode today, we had an opportunity to talk with the InfiniTeach team, including co-founders Katie Hench and Lally, Daley, Hotchkiss. And we talked about their organization, InfiniTeach, which focuses on the ways to make spaces more accessible and inclusive for the autism community through education and technology. We hope that you enjoy today's episode. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us today to All Access. I'd love to get us started, and Lally, maybe you can kick us off by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your role at InfiniTeach.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Lally, Daley, Hotchkiss, and I am one of the co-founders of InfiniTeach. I have worn lots of different hats over the past 11 years. Primarily, a lot of my focus has been seeking new partnerships and then working with existing partners to make sure that the technology and any of the types of supports we've built for them is working out okay.
And echoing, thank you for having us. My name is Katie Hench. I am also one of the co-founders and the CEO of InfiniTeach. And so my job really is managing these amazing colleagues that I work with, and like Lally, just helping our partners understand that when they work with us, we're really helping them to promote a culture of access and inclusion and doing everything that we can to support them in that.
My name is Aliyah Rich. I am the content developer and project manager of InfiniTeach. So I assist and help create many of InfiniTeach's apps, as well as just help with editing with their websites, as well as the resources. I also help InfiniTeach's social media accounts. So mainly I've been working a lot with LinkedIn. So we've been posting a lot about autism as well as disability. And that's one of the great parts of what I do, is just sharing InfiniTeach's mission throughout the world.
I'm Ned Williams, and I am the lead media editor. So what that means is I work with all the audio, the visuals, like icons, videos, any images as well. I also work with various logos. A lot of the visuals were created by me in our various apps.
Great. Impressive team. So Lally and Katie, can you tell us a little bit about the founding of InfiniTeach and when it was founded and what was the driving force behind the company?
Yeah, so InfiniTeach was founded probably officially 11 or so years ago, but it was really an idea before that. Katie, Chris, and I are the co-founders of InfiniTeach, and we all worked in the field of autism. Katie and Chris's background was special education, and I was a behavior therapist. I think we were always interested in how to reach more families, how to reach more individuals. And the three of us were part of a very small non-for-profit where we would travel to developing countries and provide free training on autism to parents, teachers, and other professionals. And during one of these trainings in Nigeria, we kind of had that aha moment of seeing, in a small classroom in Nigeria, technology being used. And that made us think, well, we know nothing about technology. Why not have that be a way that we reach more individuals? So again, I think it probably started well beyond 11 years ago, the idea, and then we came back to Chicago and brought our minds together, sat in different coffee shops, working other jobs, and just keep talking about this idea and how we could get it started. But really it was, how can we utilize technology to reach more individuals and embed best practice autism strategies that we were already using in the classroom, or I was using it in an outpatient hospital setting, just reaching more individuals.
So I'd love to learn where the name InfiniTeach came from.
I'll let Katie answer this, but I wish we could take a picture of the amount of names we went through. I don't know, I just have a flashback of I think we were maybe even in your apartment or a coffee shop, and we would just write lists and lists and lists of names.
We definitely didn't pick it because it's easy to Google or spell. InfiniTeach really represents that we think there are infinite possibilities that we give people when we teach in a way that supports people, when we teach in a way that they best understand. So that kind of idea of infinite possibilities when we do a good job teaching.
Aliyah, can you talk to us a little bit about what the mission of InfiniTeach is, as well as some of the services provided?
So InfiniTeach's main mission is to provide access to the autism community. So we do that primarily through technology, but also like training as well. So we've been providing a lot of accessible apps, but also digital printable resources, PDFs, as well as just providing training to many organizations, not just libraries, but also medical museums. We work a lot with museums, especially in France, and well as here in the United States, Illinois. And it's been such a credible journey of just learning, meeting people, listening to many organizations that wants to be more accessible to the autism community, especially knowing it's very nervous to go to a place, or especially you never visit. So our primary is to guide the person or people to feel more comfortable in these spaces, recognizing what you will see, do it in this space, and just teaching in the sense that we're all about communication and well as just understanding and inclusion.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of understanding what to expect at different maybe cultural sites or different public spaces?
Yes, especially say for instance you visit the Field Museum, you will learn what exhibits are there, what you can do at the exhibit, and what kind of experience you might have, but also like ways you can feel more comfortable. If you're not comfortable with loud noises, you can visit this area if you're more keen, but also just having more adventure, because sometimes people with autism, they like the expected. So they will like to know what I'm going to expect at this museum, what I'm going to expect at this doctor's office. So how I feel comfortable learning this and knowing what I'm going to see.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I think one way to think of us is very niche consultants.
Yeah.
And so we work with partners across cultural institutions, airports, airlines, libraries. Aliyah was mentioning healthcare. Anytime we see that there is a barrier to access, we can step in and support folks in understanding what are those barriers, why do they exist, and how do we address them. And so some of the projects we've worked on that I think we're really proud of, one is access to dental care. And so going to visit the dentist can be very anxiety-provoking for lots of people, especially people who maybe are neurodivergent. And so we're really looking at analyzing, well, what is it about visiting the dentist that can be overwhelming or off-putting or anxiety-provoking? And how do we create resources, training, other supports for both families as well as the professionals to help alleviate some of those barriers?
You do this through like online resources or an app?
Both. We've done both apps. We've done online resources. Like we worked with a group called Bucks, which is an online resource. We've done things like Vax for All, similar thing, which we've done as an online resource. But then we also have a platform for various apps that basically, like, you have like games in there to like help relax and stressful. We also have like sensory maps that tell like where all the different sensory components are, as well as guides that explain what you might see at the different exhibits before you go.
What I thought was really cool, as someone with a visual impairment, using the app or exploring the app kind of wayfind in a way. So it was cool to see how, you know, it was designed for one disability, but may be really beneficial to other people with other disabilities as well.
Yeah.
Ned, I'd love to talk to you about one of the words that Katie just mentioned, which is a neurodivergent. What does that mean?
In general, neurodiversity basically refers to like so neurotypical. To understand, you need to understand neurotypical to understand neurodiversity. So neurotypical is like anyone who fits into like normal patterns, can do interactions with their environment in a pretty typical way. So neurodivergent is anyone who like doesn't maybe fit into that. Now, the example of autism. Now, people with autism generally sometimes can struggle in social interactions and have other challenges that someone who's neurotypical would not have. So basically, neurodiverse or neurodivergent basically means that there are just some differences in the way you process information. And as an autistic individual myself, sometimes it causes challenges, and like for me with like social engagement, or sometimes loud noises, even noises that someone without autism might not even notice can be super loud or super noticeable to someone with autism, even stuff like smells or how bright the lights are.
Okay. And what are some common misconceptions of the neurodivergent population or community?
One of the misconceptions is that because sometimes neurodivergent people need extra supports to be able to function in different environments, is that sometimes people sometimes feel that those supports mean they're less capable, but that's not the case. Because with the right support, someone who's neurodivergent, whether it's autism or something like that or some other disability, can be just as capable as someone else, provided they get the proper supports.
And I would just like to say that is exactly what we do at InfiniTeach. I'm very proud of our neurodiverse team, and I think finding the right supports and getting people in the right places has really helped us become a very successful and cohesive team. And I think that's exactly right, that everyone is capable and we all need different supports and different accommodations. And when we work to find what those are, we can be really successful employees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially knowing that the world of disability is constantly changing, and especially people are more aware of disability and how it affects the environment, how you walk, how you go to work, and how you even should be treated. And I feel like for autism, it's one of those things where it's not visually seen, but it's very much noticed. And a lot of times people tell me I don't look autistic, but that's how autism is. It's a spectrum. Not every person with autism is the same, but we still need the accommodations. We still need our space to ourselves, but also that doesn't mean we're always antisocial or don't care about anything. We do care, especially if it's our emotions, but we still like to do things, work, and we can easily succeed more than most neurotypical people in some ways. And that's how we should strive to embrace people and not just discriminate against them.
Right. For me, with my autism, it's given me great ability to recognize patterns or have attention to detail, which for my job is absolutely amazing because it allows me to effectively do my job. But a lot of times people might not see that because they see, oh, disability, this person's not capable, when it's really precisely the opposite.
Well, thank you both for sharing. In our Career Center for MOPD, we work with job seekers with all types of disabilities, and really we like to say skills and abilities. Mm-hmm. But when we're thinking of disability types, it's a pretty wide range. And so when we're thinking about neurodiversity, that also seems like it could be a wide range, like you said, Aliyah. Mm-hmm. Since neurodiversity includes this large umbrella, do you think there's a best way for employers to learn how to work with individuals who are neurodiverse?
There's definitely a way, especially when it comes to accommodations, because sometimes many people with autism like consistency. It's one of those things where we have a routine of doing something, and any sort of change kind of throws us off even a little bit. And so when those type of things kind of helps, especially where we're CC'd in repetitive work or even some type of work that kind of is meticulous to somebody, but it's not meticulous to us if we're very good at that. But still keep options open for more accommodations, safe spaces, and quiet spaces of knowing if we ever have a struggle with something, we can have a break here. If I need to have a schedule in mind, that can help very much so, knowing I may struggle with what to do next after I finish my current work, and that kind of helps even more so.
Right. Most workplaces, when it comes to setting a schedule or setting up the environment, a lot of places will tell you what needs to be done, what the end product needs to look like, but they won't tell you step by step how to get it done. And for someone with autism, that could potentially be harder when it comes to getting it done because a lot of people with autism thrive much more in a more structured environment. if it's checklists, to-do lists, all of that can be very helpful. So to help with employers accommodating people with autism, that's just the type of thing you need to keep in mind, is that sometimes you need to make some adjustments to work with the individual with autism in order to allow them to be successful. Like, it's a team effort. The employer has to be willing to accommodate the person to allow their best to come out.
So obviously self-advocacy, as we're hearing, is a really critical component to accommodations. So talking to your employees, understanding, what do they need in order to be as successful as they can at their job. It's not just accommodating folks with disabilities or folks who are neurodivergent, right? It's just providing the right workplace for your staff to be able to achieve as much as they can. So we definitely talk about accommodations all the way from the hiring process. What do you need in order to put your best foot forward in terms of getting this job, all the way through sustainability in a job and even growth in a job. So continuously checking in and asking your own staff, what are their accommodations? Are their needs being met? Do you have an annual survey that you're putting out every year? Because also people's needs change. We see some of our staff who have stronger needs during times of high anxiety. The holidays are coming up, or I'm taking a trip, or something else is a big change. I'm moving, something that's happening in my life that's a big change might require an increase in accommodations and increase in supports. And so how do you have a way to really have that open back and forth communication of, this is what I need now in order to be as successful at my job as I possibly can be? Training, it goes hand in hand with training, understanding what accommodations you can offer.
Yeah, I think it's also, in addition to speaking to your own staff, I think it's also helpful to consider reaching out to the community. There are so many great organizations out there that work with individuals who have autism or individuals who identify as being neurodivergent. So relying on kind of those experts of who can help you make some of those changes and accommodations to put in place in your workforce, it would be great.
And it's interesting too, because I'm just thinking about how obviously you all work for the same organization and have the same goal and everything, but I would imagine, like Katie and Lally, that you've also been instrumental in getting feedback from Ned and Aliyah, and just thinking of it from that perspective and being able to be a supportive employer and an inclusive employer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a continuous, open communication. We learned so much from our colleagues. I think having a neurodiverse team, whether you realize it or not, probably everyone has a neurodiverse team. And so really valuing and honoring the perspective that everyone brings to the table is so critical, I think, not only to individual success, but to, again, success as a team, success in cohesion is really critical.
I think that's really neat. I think, as we release this podcast, it'll be at the beginning of the year, and maybe a lot of employers are doing performance reviews, and I know that's something that we're doing at MOPD now, and it's interesting as a supervisor to sit back and think about how someone accomplishes something, and how it is often very different from maybe how I would do something, but valuing that and understanding how, people get to a certain point, and although it may be different, how everyone's able to be successful in different ways.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you all have done so much through InfiniTeach. I'm excited to hear about what you're most proud of in your work, and maybe some projects that you're most excited about.
Well, for me, what I'm particularly proud of about my work in InfiniTeach, as I'm an autistic individual, I've always found it pretty meaningful to be able to do work that I'm not only good at and enjoy, but that directly gives back to the community that I'm part of. Because, for example, I've faced challenges in school and finding jobs because of lack of support. Just finding schools that had the right supports to allow me to be successful was quite difficult. So I feel good about being able to work for a company that allows me to fill some of those holes and get other supports that I never had.
InfiniTeach gave me such courage to embrace myself as an autistic individual, because one of those things that anybody can relate is that sometimes we are very hard on ourselves. And for me, especially when I was in school, I struggled a lot of subjects. And And a lot of times I was teased because of how I was not that social with other people. But as I grew older and seeing so many people with disabilities that embrace who I am, knowing my parents are so proud of me, who I am because of InfiniTeach, they gave me such courage to speak out, talk about disabilities, how people are changing this world, knowing some people struggle to be who they are. And I feel like InfiniTeach does that wonderfully, because people like Ned and I can feel so different from everybody else, but they made us feel like a part of something. And knowing how much we do for others, whether we're well known or not, we still care about what we do for others, and it just shows. It shows in our work, it shows what we do in the building, and it shows what we do as a team, and it's been such beautiful ever since. So I will forever be grateful for them.
To me, one of our biggest accomplishments is our team, is that we all came together and for the last 10 or 11 years have been able to make such an impact. You know, we get emails a lot from the partners that we work with across the country and around the world, saying that the ripple effect that we've had, that it's not only the products and services that we're offering, but it's how it's reaching the guests that they're serving. It's a signal of trust to those guests that this is an accessible and inclusive place. And I think that stems because our company is accessible and inclusive, and we live and breathe that every single day. That is who we are, that is part of our being, and that will continue to be part of our being as we move forward.
Yeah, I'd like to really echo that thought. I think I'm so proud of our team. It's amazing to hear from people who use our technology. That's always wonderful that it is so meaningful and useful. But I'm also really proud of our partners. You know, Lauren, you asked earlier about, do we visit the sites? And we try not to, because we want to empower our partners to be able to carry this on beyond us. It's wonderful to have them walk through their space using kind of this sensory guide that we create and kind of think of each room in a different way and think of, you know, the supports that we're putting in place and how we want to welcome, support, and engage their guests, oftentimes using our technology. So I'm so proud of our so many amazing partners who, some were knowledgeable ahead of time, and then some were so honest and were like, you know, I know nothing about autism. And now they're carrying on and they're running sensory-friendly events and, you know, working closely with the community. We helped them get there, but then they continue to grow.
They not only changed my life, they taught me so much of how technology is being used to help disability, especially knowing that some people are not always familiar with how people with autism struggle with and what they can do. So this is a helpful resource that we're creating. And I was like, yeah, this is something I got to do for the rest of my life. I think I started in 2018 or 2017 when I first started, but ever since then, I never looked back.
And me and Aliyah always made a great team as well.
Yes, especially a lot of fun, especially working, especially when we do our hangouts, especially like going to escape rooms or visiting a restaurant, even a boat tour. And that's one of those things where we're not only a team, we're like a family. We work together, we do this together, we help out people, and knowing that is just something I always be proud of, especially my parents. They're my biggest supporters because of it.
That's so great. And I know that you guys played a role too in MOPD's first social story that we published online. Can you tell us a little bit about social stories and how they're used?
Yeah, a social story is going to be an example that helps set the expectation for what you're going to see, what you might experience, what's expected of you. It can really help reduce anxiety. We've even seen that it can help increase independence, just in whatever format we're sharing that information, so that you know before you go. So that way you're not worried about the actual logistics of being there, but you actually know what to expect, what you can experience.
Ned and Aliyah, again, thinking about our job seekers at our career center, self-advocacy goes hand in hand with disclosure, or disability disclosure, or often does. Is there any advice that you would give to job seekers who might have a disability that's not visible and are anxious or afraid of disclosing and sharing that with an employer?
I would say it's just to people to recognize the person with disability and to recognize what are their strengths, what can I help them with if they're struggling with this type of job, and just to be more embracing of their skills and their strengths, and knowing that sometimes it is difficult for some things, but that doesn't mean I can't work.
I think it's what I found sometimes helps me is don't look at what you can't do, think about what you can do. Like, that's what's really helped me. Like, I've embraced the fact that my autism has given me great attention to detail or great pattern recognition and other stuff, so I focus on the benefits I've gotten from it instead of what challenges it's given me.
We are very curious and would like to know what is next for all of you.
It's a great question. So InfiniTeach itself is at a crossroads. We have been operating for over 10 years now, and we are at a point where both our partners feel that they are empowered enough to kind of continue down this accessibility and inclusion road on their own. And for us, the work, while very meaningful and impactful, it has become harder for us to sustain financially. And so we are at a point where each of us has realized our passion for this work in the space that we're in, but we're going to be doing it in separate ways. We're going to be shutting down InfiniTeach at the end of 2024 and kind of each exploring our own individual opportunities still within this space. And we have worked really, really hard to make sure our partners are set up that they can continue doing this work. Obviously, you can hear the passion and dedication in our team when we speak to this work. So we're very excited to pursue individual consulting and training opportunities, as well as really just seeing what's next for us.
So for me, what's next? I definitely found sort of my passion for definitely working with computers, graphic design, something with like audio, video editing, stuff like that. But I also have realized that I also have a passion and a way for being a spokesperson for autism. So for me, I'm hoping to find a job where I can still have a role in both of those areas, working with tech as well as still being a spokesperson for the autism community. And I've reached out to various companies that I think would be a good bet for that, and I still plan to possibly be on panels still for the mayor's office if ever needed.
Plug Ned.
Yes. The same with me. I love the disability advocacy I've done over the years, and especially even during my school, I was talking about autism. I was telling students how great our school is, but also how important it is to be representing and being part of the disability community. And I hope I continue to be a part of that through working with Chicago and talking about disabilities in some ways. I hope I can work more for podcasting or even digital editing, because I'm very good at editing videos. So I can easily talk about like autism in that way. So hopefully in my future I can like post more blogs or stories about people with disabilities, because there's so many people out there that deserve to be heard.
Well, I want you both to keep in mind that there's a career center out there that is happy to support you as well if you feel that you need that.
Yeah.
Could be useful for sure.
Well, I wanted to thank you all for being here today. Lauren and I want to thank you for your time and all the work that you've done, over the past several years to support the autism community and individuals with disabilities. We will miss you as a team, but know that we will be still here for you and look forward to working with you in different ways.
Thank you for having us. This is a great way to kind of think back, reflect on the work that we've done over
this is so meaningful. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this month's episode of All Access. Be sure to check us out on social media at MOPD Chicago.
Special thanks to our executive producer, Commissioner Rachel Arfa, the City of Chicago's production team, our sign language interpreters who helped to make our podcast accessible, and our special guest today. See you next time.